This is what a full box of beans look like. Okay, you've got your fruit box. It's all the way up to the top. Today we are canning green beans. We have 4 boxes of these green beans that we went and got from our local Amish market, and we are canning them today. We are here with the famous Mimi. She is here helping us can, and it's a Southern tradition here for us, and we like to do this with our grandparents, with our parents, because when you're canning something like this and you don't know, it's good to ask for help. This isn't something that you kind of want to take on your own. It's kind of a Southern staple for all of us. You normally sit on the front porch, drink sweet tea, and break beans. These are Malibu beans. The Malibus don't have a string with them. So if this were a normal green bean that we were doing and it wasn't a Malibu, I would have to break off the end right here. You would peel it backwards and you would have to pull a string from here. And when you break off this other end, you pull a string off the back spine as well. And Malibus don't have strings. They're stringless green beans. So it saves you a lot of time and a lot of hassle having to go back. When you've got kids helping you out, kids doing it, it makes it tougher to make sure the strings are out. You don't want to really be eating the strings. It makes the green bean tough. This will be green beans for us all winter and for my parents all winter. So we tried to do more than we did last year, just so we would have enough to A, make it through, and B, we could start eating them a little sooner. Last year we didn't really start eating our green beans till about late November, December. And honestly, they were so good, we kind of wanted to start eating them a little earlier this year, so we bought more. You want to break them little quarters just like that, and you're able to fit them in the jar. Today we're going to pressure cook it and can it that way. So it is a little different.
Faster.
It's faster. A little different, a little faster. The time consuming thing for all of this is this right here, what we're doing. We'll jet on over and we'll get you guys and show you guys what it looks like when we pack it, what it looks like when we're cooking it, and all of those things as well. Anytime you're going to can, you want to wash these before you're doing it. This is the first wash that we're doing, and when we do these on some of these beans here, you can kind of see, if you're looking real close, you can see the black spots on them, and you kind of want to cut some of those out. You don't really want all of those. If it's something small like that, obviously it's not a huge deal. If it's something bigger and you've got big black spots on them, you want to cut those out. Making sure that those don't get in your beans so they don't ruin them.
And you can see the water's dirty, but it's not overly dirty.
Yeah, it's not too terrible.
And one thing I learned was if you break them the day before, you need to not wash them till you get ready to can them, because it can make like a black line, which doesn't hurt anything, but it does affect the way they look.
Would you just run them in water? Fill your sink back up, running water over them 2 or 3 times. Make sure that they're washed good. You don't want to preserve something that's dirty.
If you're going to do all the work, you need to do it right.
Yep. Why do you want to do it in cold water?
Because Mama Dad always did.
Also,
If you're going to cold pack, which is what we're going to do, we're not going to cook them.
okay.
We're just going to pack them cold. You do pour boiling water over them before you put them in your hot pressure.
Which makes sense.
But for now, I guess it just keeps them crisp until you get ready to, I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense. This is what a full box of beans look like. Okay, you've got your fruit box. It's all the way up to the top. And that's your quart jars. Give you a frame of reference. Here is your pints. Okay, those are the size difference. And we were able to get 14 pints, or 14 quarts out of one of these boxes. So we've got 3 today that we're trying to do. So we'll have 42 jars, quart jars today. We'll go back in another 2 weeks and we'll probably get 2 more maybe. And that way we'll have, close to 70 quart jars for the winter.
So we break the beans and make sure there's not any obvious strings that are left on them. I am picky about my green beans and I do not like strings. So we actually started buying stringless beans, as Robby mentioned already. and the variety that we buy is called Malibu. We make sure to wash the beans very thoroughly. We wash them 3 times, just using cold water and kind of scrubbing the beans around in the sink and then rinsing them really well. Once we're done washing the beans and they've already been broken, they're ready to go into the jars. We also add salt to our jars. So we add 1 teaspoon of salt to our quart-sized jars and a half teaspoon of salt to the pint-sized jars. This is totally optional, so if you have reasons you don't want to add salt, you don't have to, but it does help improve the flavor of the beans and it helps them not be bland at the end. We cold pack our green beans so they go straight into the jars without being cooked first. And then we pour boiling water over top of the beans to get the jars and the beans up to a warm temperature so that we can put them straight in the pressure canner and it doesn't bust the jars going from hot to cold. It's also important to pack the beans in very tightly, otherwise you'll end up with air gaps and your beans will kind of float to the top and you'll have a section at the bottom that's just liquid with no beans. After the boiling water's in the jars, we wipe the rims with white vinegar just to get any sediment off, and then we add the lids and rings to our jars. We tighten the rings on the jars, making sure they're fingertip tight, which means you don't have to crank on them too hard, but you also want to make sure that they're tightly sealed, and then load them into the pressure canner. We're using 2 different pressure canners today, which is one of the amazing things about coming to Mimi's house for her help with canning green beans. The Presto canner has a steam vent at the back. You want to put your jars in and close the lid and then wait for steam to consistently come out of the steam vent. And then you put your weight on top of the steam vent. As steam builds up inside the pressure canner, the gauge on the front will tell you how many pounds of pressure are inside the canner. Your recipe should also tell you how many pounds of pressure you're supposed to cook your items at. So for green beans, you want to cook them at 10 pounds of pressure for 25 minutes. The All-American pressure canner works a little bit differently. It has screws that you want to screw down and you want to alternate from one side to the other. It also has a special weight that you can flip to different sides based on how many pounds of pressure you need. So you'll put the weight on the canner with the 10-pound side facing down. As steam builds up, that weight will jiggle and release some of the extra pressure out of the pot without you having to adjust the temperature manually like you would for the Presto canner. Once your beans are in jars and the lids and the rings are on, put your jars into your canner and go ahead and close it up. Make sure you check the manufacturing instructions that came with your canner to see how much water you need to add to the canner. That's what's going to help the steam build up. Each type of canner can require a different amount of water. Then you're going to turn the stove on once you have the lid on your pressure canner, and you're going to turn on the heat just like you would if you were trying to get a pot to boil. Then you can adjust the temperature of the pot and therefore the pressure inside the pot by turning your stove temperature hotter or colder. Once your pressure gauge shows that you are at 10 pounds of pressure, that's when you can start your timer for the 25 minutes. If you're doing pint-sized jars, they only need 20 minutes, but the quarts need 25. After that timer goes off and you've kept the pressure at 10 pounds the whole time, then you can turn off your stove, but do not open the lid. You want to turn the stove off completely and let the pressure inside the canner go all the way back down to 0 before you try to open the lid. Remember to always open the pressure canner away from your face because even if the pressure has gone down to 0, there's still hot steam inside and it can come out quickly. When you get the jars out of the pressure canner, remember they're also going to be very hot. You want to remove those with a jar lifting tool and put them on a cutting board or on a towel. You never want to set those super hot jars on top of your cold countertops because it can cause the jars to crack. Leave the jars sitting for at least 12 to 24 hours before you try to move them. And you want to listen and check for the pop sound. That means that the lid has sealed. If you don't hear the pop and you don't feel that it's sealed, the button's not pushed down on the top of the jar, you want to use those jars immediately instead of storing them on your shelves. I think that's everything I can think of, but if there's any questions, leave them in the comments. If you guys have canned green beans before and you have tips or tricks that you want to share, let us know those as well. Thanks for watching and happy canning!